I walked out of my childhood home 4 days ago with a single duffel bag, a laptop, and a handwritten note left on the marble kitchen island. Since then, my phone has lit up with 83 notifications. Missed calls, desperate texts, voice memos ranging from sobbing to screaming. They are begging me to come back. They are demanding I stop being dramatic. But here's the thing. They have absolutely no clue what is about to hit them. They think this is a tantrum. They think I'm sulking. What they don't realize is that I haven't just left. I've initiated a sequence of events that is going to dismantle their entire artificial life. To understand why this is so deeply satisfying, you need the full context. You need to understand the architecture of this family. I am Yulian. I'm 30 years old. For the last 3 years, I've been living in a guest suite in a sprawling Victorian estate in the wealthy historic district of our city. This house didn't belong to my parents originally. It belonged to my great-aunt Martha. She was the only person in this bloodline who actually understood me. When she passed away 3 years ago, the reading of the will was the first shock to the system. My parents, Robert and Sylvia, assumed they would inherit the entire estate. They had already picked out curtains before the funeral. But Martha was sharp. She knew my parents were terrible with money and obsessed with status. So, she left the house to us in a split ownership. Robert and Sylvia got a 55% share. I was left a 45% share. At the time, their lawyer explained it clearly. We were tenants in common. We all owned the property. But Robert and Sylvia laughed it off. They patted me on the head, literally, and told me it was just a legal technicality. They told me not to worry my little head about property taxes or maintenance. They said, "Julian, you just stay here rent-free while you figure out your life. We'll handle the burden of this estate." See, that's the narrative they built. To them, and to everyone in their social circle, I am the failure to launch. I went to art school for digital design, dropped out to pursue independent projects, and in their eyes, I've been unemployed for a decade. Here's the reality. I am a high-end freelance UX architect and a ghostwriter for tech startups. I work remotely. I make very, very good money. Last year, I cleared just under $200,000. But because I don't wear a suit, because I work from a dual monitor setup in my bedroom, and because my hours are irregular, they assume I'm playing video games and rotting away. I never corrected them. Why? Because the moment they know I have money, they will feel entitled to it. And the reason they treat me like dirt is because of my sister, Ilara. Ilara is 33. She's the golden child. She's a brand consultant, which mostly involves posting photos of her brunch and leasing luxury cars she can't afford. She lives in a penthouse downtown that my parents helped down payment. She is loud, flashy, and successful in a way that matters to my parents. Visibly. For 3 years, I have paid for my own food, my own bills, and quietly put money into a high-yield savings account, all while enduring their snide comments. I stayed because I loved the house. It was Aunt Martha's legacy. And because I own nearly half of it, I refused to be pushed out. Until last Saturday. Saturday was their 30th wedding anniversary party. It was a small family dinner. It was a gala. They hosted it in the garden. Caterers, a string quartet, the whole 9 yards. 50 of their closest friends and business associates were there. Robert is a VP at a logistics firm, and Sylvia is the head of a local charity board. Image is oxygen to them. I wasn't going to go. I hate these events. But Sylvia cornered me on Thursday and told me I had to make an appearance. She said, "Julian, please just put on a shirt with buttons and try not to embarrass us. People ask where you are, and it's exhausting making up excuses for why you're still living at home at 30. I should have packed my bag right then. But I have a high tolerance for pain, apparently. I decided to go, make the rounds, eat a shrimp cocktail, and disappear. The party was in full swing. I was standing near the bar, sipping a soda water, actually having a decent conversation with one of Robert's colleagues about vintage cars. Then the speeches started. Robert gathered everyone for a toast. He stood on the patio steps, raising a glass of expensive champagne. He talked about his love for Sylvia, their journey, their success. Then he decided to pivot to the family legacy. He pointed to Alara, who was posing in a shimmering dress. To our daughter, Alara, he boomed. A vision of success. A shark in the business world. You make us proud every single day. Everyone clapped. Then his eyes landed on me. The smile didn't leave his face, but it changed. It became that pitying, condescending smirk I know so well. And to Julian, he said. The crowd turned. Our free spirit. He's still finding himself in the guest room upstairs. But hey, every family needs a charity case to keep them humble, right? The laughter wasn't raucous. It was uncomfortable. A few people chuckled nervously. Robert's boss, a man named Sterling, looked at me with genuine pity. Robert wasn't done. Here's to 30 years of success. And hopefully, by the time we hit 40 years, the nest will finally be empty. He clinked his glass. I stood there, frozen. I felt the heat rise up my neck. I didn't storm off. I didn't scream. I just smiled that dead, practiced smile I perfected over the years. I nodded at him. I walked away from the patio and went into the kitchen to get away from the eyes. I was leaning against the counter, trying to control my breathing, when Sylvia walked in with her best friend, Karen. They didn't see me. I was in the pantry alcove grabbing a bottle of water. Robert is in rare form tonight, Karen said, laughing. But seriously, Sylvia, is Julian ever going to leave? It's been 3 years since Martha died. I heard the clink of a wine bottle. Then Sylvia's voice, dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Oh, don't worry about that, Sylvia said. We're done waiting. Robert and I are changing the locks next weekend while he's at that gaming convention he goes to. We're going to pack his things and put them in storage. It's time for tough love. If we kick him out, he'll be forced to sink or swim. Probably sink, but at least he won't be our problem anymore. Karen gasped. Can you do that? Doesn't he have rights? Please, Sylvia scoffed. He's a squatter. He doesn't pay rent. He doesn't contribute. It's our house. We're doing him a favor, really. I stood in the dark of the pantry, the water bottle warm in my hand. It's our house. Asterisk. That was a phrase that triggered the nuclear option. They had forgotten. In their arrogance. In their narrative of me as a helpless child, they had completely forgotten the legal reality of Aunt Martha's will. I waited for them to leave the kitchen. I went upstairs, calm as a bomb squad technician. I packed the essentials. My tech, my documents, my hard drives. I left my clothes, my books, my furniture. I wanted them to see the void I left behind. I wrote the note, asterisk, thanks for the toast. Enjoy the empty nest. Don't bother changing the locks. I won't be needing a key where I'm going. I drove to a boutique hotel downtown, one I've used for clients before. I checked in for an indefinite stay. That was 4 days ago. Day 1 was silence. They were probably hungover from a party. Day 2, the text started. Sylvia, asterisk, where are you? We're trying to clean up. Asterisk and Robert, asterisk, stop playing games, Julian. Come home and help with the tent rental pickup. Asterisk, day 3, panic set in. Asterisk, Julian, this is childish. We didn't mean it. Come back. Asterisk, day 4, today, the tone shifted to anger. Alara sent me a voice note calling me a ungrateful leech and telling me I was stressing Mom out. They have no idea that on Monday morning at 9 a.m. sharp, I was sitting in the office of a real estate attorney named Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson is a shark. I brought him the deed, the will, and proof of my residency. I explained the situation. I told him I wanted to trigger a petition action. For those who don't know, a petition action is a legal maneuver available to co-owners of a property. If one owner wants to sell and the others don't, the court can force the sale of the property to split the equity. It doesn't matter if they hold 55% and I hold 45%. I have a right to liquidate my asset. Mr. Henderson looked at the paperwork. He smiled. This is airtight, he said. But we need to run a title search first to see if there are any encumbrances on the property. That search came back yesterday afternoon. And that is the second bomb waiting to drop. I assumed the house was paid off. Aunt Martha had no mortgage. But the title search revealed that 18 months ago, Robert and Sylvia took out a home equity line of credit, a HELOC, against the house. They borrowed $250,000 against the property. I never signed off on this. I never knew about it. Legally, because they're majority owners, some lenders might have let them slide, and this is what Mr. Henderson suspects, they might have forged a signature or misrepresented my status on the application. So here's the math. The house is valued at roughly $1.2 million. My 45% share should be worth $540,000, but they have stripped $250,000 of equity out of it. Where did that money go? They certainly didn't spend it on the house. The roof still leaks in the garage, and the HVAC is 20 years old. I authorized Mr. Henderson to file the petition lawsuit immediately. He is also filing a motion for a full forensic accounting of the Hellick funds. Tomorrow, a process server is going to knock on that beautiful oak front door. He is going to hand Robert a lawsuit that demands the immediate sale of the property and accuses him of financial mismanagement. I am sitting in my hotel room, drinking an espresso, watching my phone buzz. Robert just texted, *, we're family, family forgives. *, I just laughed out loud. Family doesn't call you a mistake in front of 50 people. Family doesn't plan to illegally evict you. Family doesn't steal $250,000 of equity from your inheritance. The war has begun. It has been 3 days since my first entry, and the fallout has been explosive. The process server, a lovely guy named Dave, went to the house on Friday afternoon. I know this because I have a Ring doorbell camera on the back porch that I installed myself. One they don't know about and never access. I still have the feed on my phone. I watched Dave walk up. Sylvia answered the door. She was wearing her yoga gear, looking annoyed. She probably thought it was a delivery. When Dave handed her the thick envelope and said, "You've been served," her face went slack. She took the papers. She stood on the porch for a solid minute, reading the cover sheet. Then the screaming started. She ran inside. 5 minutes later, Robert's car screeched into the driveway. He must have been nearby. My phone started melting down immediately. First, a call from Robert. I let it go to voicemail. Then Sylvia. Voicemail. Then Alara. I listened to Robert's voicemail. He sounded breathless, terrified. *, Julian, what is this? A lawsuit? Are you insane? You're suing your own parents? Call me back right now, or I'm coming to find you. *, I didn't call back. Instead, I forwarded the voicemail to Mr. Henderson. Saturday morning, things got ugly. Alara, my sister, found out where I was staying. I suspect she used a Find My Friends feature on an old iPad I left logged in at the house. Amateur mistake on my part. I heard banging on my hotel room door at 8 a.m. I looked through the peephole. It was Alara, and she looked furious. I opened the door, but I kept the security latch on. "Open this door, Julian," she yelled. She was causing a scene in the hallway. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Mom is having a panic attack." "Lower your voice, Alara," I said calmly. "I'm not opening the door." "You're trying to sell the house," she hissed. "You can't do that. That's their house." "It's our house," I corrected. "And actually, 45% of it is mine. And since they plan to change the locks and kick me out, I'm cashing out." "They were joking," she screamed. "That was just talk." "Sylvia had a date set," I said, "next weekend, while I was supposed to be away. That's not a joke, Alara. That's an eviction." "So what?" she shot back. "You're a grown man. You should have moved out years ago. You're just mad because you're a broke loser and you want to ruin their happiness." "Broke loser," I repeated, tasting the words. "Is that right?" "Yes. You do nothing. You sit in your room all day, and now you want to steal their home." "Alara," I said, leaning closer to the crack in the door, "ask Mom and Dad about the $250,000 loan they took out against the house. Ask them where that money went." She froze. "What loan?" "Ask them," I said. "And while you're at it, ask yourself why they needed $250,000 when Dad makes six figures." She looked confused, then angry again. "You're lying." "Go ask them." I closed the door and locked it. She banged on it for another minute, then stormed off. 2 hours later, I got an email from their lawyer. Not the shark, Mr. Henderson, but their family lawyer, a guy named old Mr. Abernathy, who usually handles their wills. The email was a formal request for a settlement meeting to avoid unnecessary litigation and family strife. I forwarded it to Henderson. Henderson called me 10 minutes later. "Julian," Henderson said, sounding amused, "they are panicking. They want to meet on Tuesday. But here is the interesting part. We got the preliminary financials back on that helic. And I asked, it's messy, Julian. Very messy. It looks like the bank allowed the loan based on a signature that purports to be yours. Did you sign a document authorizing a line of credit in February of last year?" "Absolutely not," I said. My blood ran cold. "Well, someone signed your name," Henderson said. "This just went from a property dispute to fraud. If we push this, your parents aren't just losing the house. They could be looking at criminal charges." I sat on the edge of the hotel bed. Criminal charges. I wanted them to learn a lesson, but prison? What are my options? I asked. "We use it," Henderson said. "We go to this meeting on Tuesday. We lay the fraud on the table. We demand a full buyout of your share, plus damages, immediately, or we go to the police." I told him to set it up. So, Tuesday is a showdown. I'm going to walk into a room with the people who call me a mistake, the people who stole from me, and I'm going to hold their entire future in my hands. Tuesday came. I put on my best suit, a charcoal bespoke suit that I bought for a client meeting in New York last year, one my parents have never seen. I groomed my beard, put on my watch, a vintage Omega, and met Mr. Henderson at his office. We drove to the meeting at Mr. Abernathy's firm. When I walked into the conference room, the silence was deafening. Robert and Sylvia were sitting on one side of the mahogany table. Ilera was there, too, sitting next to Sylvia, holding her hand. When they saw me, saw the suit, the watch, the confidence, Robert actually stood up halfway, then sat back down. They didn't recognize this version of me. They only knew the guy in the hoodie. "Julian," Sylvia said, her voice trembling. "You look nice." "Sylvia." I nodded. I didn't call her mom. Mr. Henderson took the lead. "Let's skip the pleasantries. My client is initiating a petition action to liquidate his 45% interest in the estate. We are also asserting a claim for misappropriation of funds regarding the helic taken out against the property." Mr. Abernathy cleared his throat. "Now look, my clients admit there was a misunderstanding regarding the loan. They viewed it as accessing family equity for family needs. They are willing to offer Julian a payment plan, $2,000 a month until his share is paid off." I laughed. I couldn't help it. "A payment plan? You want to pay me off over what? 40 years? I'll be dead by then." "It's what they can afford," Abernathy said. "Then they can't afford the house," Henderson said sharply. "But let's talk about the signature. The bank has on file a notarized document authorizing this loan, signed by Julian. Julian did not sign it." Robert went pale. He looked at Sylvia. Sylvia looked at the table. "That?" Robert stammered. "I handled the paperwork. I might have signed it on his behalf, thinking he would agree, as his father." "That's forgery, Robert," I said. My voice was steady. "That's a felony." Ilera spoke up. "You wouldn't send Dad to jail. You're not that heartless." "Where did the money go, Robert?" I asked. $250,000. "Where is it?" Mr. Henderson slid a folder across the table. We subpoenaed the bank records attached to the helic draw account. It wasn't hard. Henderson opened the folder. "Let's see. $60,000 to Lux Auto Leasing. That would be the Porsche Cayenne Ilera is driving. $45,000 to Prestige Events, Ilera's business launch party. $80,000 in credit card payoff for Sylvia. And, a $25,000 deposit for a river cruise in Europe for next fall." I looked at Ilera. "You call me a leech?" I said quietly. "You're driving a car paid for with the equity from my house. My signature was forged to pay for your lifestyle." Ilera looked like she was going to be sick. She pulled her hand away from Sylvia's. You told me you paid for the car lease with your bonus, she whispered to Robert. We did, Robert insisted. It's all family money. It is not family money. I slammed my hand on the table. It is theft. You stole from me to fund your golden child because you decided I was worthless. You decided I was a mistake. Well, this mistake owns 45% of your roof, and I want my money. Sylvia started crying. We don't have it, Julian. If we sell the house, where will we go? Prices have skyrocketed. We'll be in a condo. We'll be humiliated. That sounds like a you problem, I said. Mr. Henderson laid out the terms. Here's the deal. You agreed to the immediate sale of the property. Julian gets his full 45% of the gross sale price. He does not share in the debt of the Hellick. The Hellick comes entirely out of your 55% share. If you agree to this, today, Julian will not press criminal charges for forgery. They did the math. The house sells for $1.2 million. My share, 45% $540,000. Their share, 55% $660,000. Minus a Hellick debt, $250,000. And closing costs, $80,000. They would walk away with maybe $330,000. I would walk away with $540,000. They would be downsizing from a mansion to a 2-bedroom apartment. I would be half a millionaire. We can't, Robert whispered. Our friends, the community, everyone thinks we're wealthy. You have lived a lie for 3 years, I said. The bill has come due. We gave them 24 hours to sign the settlement agreement. If they don't sign by noon tomorrow, we filed a fraud lawsuit. We walked out. Elara followed me to the elevator. Julian, she said. Her voice was small. I turned. What? I didn't know, she said. I really didn't know they used your equity. I thought they just had money. You never asked, I said. You were happy to take the car and the parties and look down on me because it made you feel superior. You're 33, Elara. Wake up. I left her standing in the lobby. It's been 2 months. The dust has settled, and the landscape of my family has changed forever. They signed. They waited until 11:55 a.m. on the deadline day, but they signed. Robert knew that if the forgery came out, he would lose his job and likely his freedom. The fear of public disgrace outweighed their greed. The house went on the market 2 weeks later. Because it's a historic Victorian in a prime district, it triggered a bidding war. It sold for $1.35 million. Over asking price. We closed yesterday. Here's the final tally. My wire transfer hit my account this morning. $607,500. Robert and Sylvia, after paying off the Hellick, the closing costs and the expedited fees, walked away with about $310,000. It sounds like a lot, but for 2 people in their 60s with no other retirement savings, which I also discovered during discovery, they have nothing saved. It's nothing. They can't buy a house in our city for that. They are currently renting a modest 2-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town. The humiliation was absolute. The for sale sign on the lawn was the talk of the neighborhood. Sylvia had to resign from her charity board because she could no longer host the annual garden party. Robert has become a ghost at work, terrified that rumors of his financial incompetence will spread. But the sweetest part? The extended family knows. When the sale was announced, my Aunt Carol, Martha's sister, called me. She had heard a spun version from Sylvia, something about me forcing them out. I sent Aunt Carol the court documents. I sent her the breakdown of the Hellick spending. Aunt Carol is the matriarch of the extended clan. She read the papers. She saw the forgery. She saw the waste. She cut Robert and Sylvia off. You stole from that boy, she told them. You disgraced Martha's legacy. I haven't spoken to Robert or Sylvia since the closing. I blocked their numbers. I don't need their apologies, and I certainly don't need their guilt trips. Elara actually reached out last week. She returned the Porsche. She couldn't afford the payments once Robert stopped subsidizing it. She's driving a used Honda now. She asked if we could get coffee. I told her, maybe in a year, I need space. As for me, I took my payout, combined with my savings, and I bought a place, not a mansion. I bought a modern, glass-walled loft in the city center. It's sleek, it's mine, and it has a dedicated office for my work. I'm currently sitting on my balcony, overlooking the skyline. I have a date tonight with a woman who knows exactly what I do for a living and respects it. My parents wanted me to launch. Well, I launched. I just used the fuel they tried to steal from me to do it. And to Robert, if you ever hear this, you were right about one thing. Every family has a mistake. You just assumed it was me, when all along, the mistake was thinking you could treat me like garbage and get away with it. Cheers.